Why did you decide to run for county commissioner in 2018? You ran against a sitting commissioner, Alan Mims, who had been there for 20 years, I think, and he was running for re-election. And you said, I don't care. Because I asked him, I said, why are you running against Alan Mims? You're like, I'm running.
Yeah, so I guess a very interesting set of circumstances that brought me to that decision. There were some things between the county and the town that seems that upset me a little bit. There were some other things with the water and sewer that upset me a little bit. And that one council meeting I went around, basically went to the mayor, pro tem, and the senior member of the board and said, are y'all gonna run for county commissioner? And I was like, no. And I said, well, I'm running for county commissioner this year. So it was probably not the preferred protocol to reach out to the Republican Party and ask them, talk to them about it. I just said, you know what? I'm going to run. It's kind of, this time is now.
Welcome to another episode of Best of Johnston County, brought to you by Breeden Law Office. Our host, Jonathan Breeden, an experienced family lawyer with a deep connection to the community, is ready to take you on a journey through the area that he has called home for over 20 years. Whether it's a deep dive into the love locals have for the county or unraveling the complexities of family law, Best of Johnston County presents an authentic slice of this unique community.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Best of Johnston County Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden, and on today's episode, we have County Commissioner Chairman Butch Lawter, and we're going to talk to him about sort of his background. He's an engineer. He went to Clemson. We're going to talk a little bit about his journey to Johnston County, his time on the Clayton Town Council, some of the things he's been most proud of in his 6 years on the Johnston County Board of Commissioners. And if we have time, we're going to maybe talk a little bit about his role as a Board of Trustee member at Johnston Community College. And then we're going to do a second episode that will be out in just a few weeks, where we will talk to him about schools, charter schools, the sheriff's departments, land use, zoning, and hopefully about the new Cleveland Park that he has been helping spearhead. So we're going to do 2 episodes here. And so be checking back in about 3 or 4 weeks for the second episode if you want to hear him answer those other questions that you don't hear him answer today. But before we get to that, I would encourage you to like, follow, or subscribe to this podcast wherever you're seeing it, whether it be on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, so you should be aware of future episodes of the Best of Johnston County Podcast. The Best of Johnston County Podcast comes out every Monday, and we've had a lot of great guests in the past, like other county commissioners like Patrick Harris and Ted Godwin, Parks and Rec Director Adrian O'Neill, Economic Development Director Chris Johnson, and I think you'll find all of those to be fascinating and educational as I have. So go back and listen to some of those and enjoy this one with Butch. Thank you for coming.
Wow, that was rapid fire.
It is rapid fire, right? I like to talk. I don't want to do an hour podcast like the big famous ones. I want to do shorter podcasts, but as much as I like to talk, that's really hard.
I like that. It reminds me of the Andy Griffith Show and the Darling Family. Jump in and hang on.
Jump in and hang on. That's about right. So anyway, so tell the audience, I mean, you are the chairman of the county commissioners, but not everybody that listens to this podcast knows that or knows about the Johnston County Commissioners. So your name, where are you from?
So Butch Lawter, originally born in Bat Cave, North Carolina, lived in Chimney Rock for the first 15 years of my life, moved to Spartanburg, South Carolina, and then came to NC State to graduate school, lived in Raleigh for about 6 years. And in 1993, I found God's country in Johnston County and Clayton and been here ever since.
Oh, man. So did you go to Clemson?
I did go to Clemson.
I know you're wearing that Clemson shirt because you're
wanted that for you.
I know you're trying to antagonize me being the NC State graduate. And we love to talk a lot of trash about football and stuff and how Clemson is not going to beat NC State this year in football.
If it makes you feel better, I did go to finishing school at NC State and got my graduate degree there. So I can do this every once in a while.
Right, but you don't cheer for the Wolfpack.
It depends on it, and not against Clemson, but against other teams, I do pull for the Wolfpack. So.
Well, that's cool. So what kind of degree did you get at Clemson?
So civil engineering degree. I had at graduate school, I got a master's in geotechnical with a minor in environmental, and mostly environmental is what I've done most of my career.
Okay, so when you got out and you got that graduate degree, what was your first job?
First job was working for a company I had interned with. It is S&ME, soil and material then. Got out. They had been bought out by Westinghouse, went to work there in the geotechnical side. 2 weeks in, the geotechnical folks were a little slow, and they said, hey, how do you want to feel about going to Cary and working in environmental? And I was like, okay. And so I went down there, spent the first 10 years of my career in environmental field, and then made the natural progression to highway construction.
Oh,
1999.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
And
So
then I've been back in the consulting world for about 8 years now.
okay. So at one point you were with ST Wooten.
I worked for ST Wooten, built many roads in central and eastern North Carolina, worked on a lot of projects, concrete and asphalt plants. A lot of good experience around eastern and central North Carolina, learning about ordinances and the way things work. So,
Well, and ST Wooten has done this project here with the widening of 40, which
yes,
is
they have.
closely, it's about to get finished. A little late, but it's going to be finished. What do you think of what they've done? I think they've done a great job, and it looks great.
So for me already, even though it's not all the way complete, it's much safer when they've eliminated the left-hand turns across. So you got the opposing left-hand turns. So I know it's takes a little getting used to. I do like the double diamond interchange. It feels a little safer getting across through there. So I think overall, yeah, when it's done, it's going to be much safer and quicker to get through this intersection.
I do too. And we're talking about the 40-42 intersection. Now there are two bridges going over 40. And if you've not been up here in the last 6 or 8 weeks, we're recording this at the end of July of 2024. They've now opened the two bridges. And if you want to go to Raleigh, you get on the left bridge. And if you want to go to Benson, you get on the right bridge. And so they've eliminated the crossing over of lanes, which gets rid of collision points, and it's going to be a lot safer. And they're just about by the time this airs, all the lanes to Raleigh will be open in both directions. And also the connector exits that you'll use the Cleveland Road exit, the 42 exit, and then the new Cleveland Road exit.
Right.
at
I think the Cleveland Road exit will obviously take a lot of traffic that's using the 42 exit right now. So are soon to be 36.
Yeah, right. They're gonna change the name of the road to Highway 36 from Highway 42. I'm not happy about that, but I understand.
Veterans Parkway.
Yeah, but they're going to have to do that because Highway 70, what I call the Highway 70 bypass, is becoming Interstate 42, and they're not wanting to confuse the drivers. So State Highway 42 through here, which is 42 of the 4042, is going to become State Highway 36 for a few miles, but it's not going to change. You'll still be 42 in Clayton and stuff like that, right? Going towards Flowers.
So it will be 42 basically from 70 Business in Clayton towards Flowers. Right. And then 42 will then go on the Ranch Road extension that's about to be finished out to what is I-42. 36 will become from there in through Clayton, from Clayton all the way out the current 42. You need a map.
Right. I got you.
Talk through all of this. And it will go 36 all the way to Highway 50. And then at 50, it will become
42 again.
But
it's going to be like Raleigh, where the road changes names as you go through the intersection.
Yeah, but the road will be Veterans Parkway from Clayton all the way to the county line. So that's and we did that mainly for 911 addressing, so that when people call, there's less confusion over are we on 42 or 36.
Right. When is that going to happen?
It looks like it will happen in the first part of next year. So there's a lot of obviously address changes, notifications, signage. So actually the county and the town are working with the DOT now to make sure that's kind of all coordinated. And we didn't want to do it before the holidays and create issues with presents getting delivered to the proper place for Christmas. So we're going to do it. I think it's in February when that's officially supposed to have the signage up.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, I didn't realize it was coming that quick. I was hoping it might be more like 2026, but now you're telling me it's happening in early 2025. I do not have an address on Highway 42 as I'm on Glen Road off of 42, but I know a lot of businesses and homeowners that do. So let's talk a little bit about, at some point you run and are elected to the Clayton Town Council. When was that?
So that was in 1999. Prior to that, I was enjoying the life of my young family. Went to church in downtown Clayton. The mayor happened to be there. It was Doug McCormick at the time. And he approached me after church one Sunday and said, "Hey, you need to run for town council." And I'm like, what do you do? Like most people, what do you do? And so he kind of told me the things we did. And I was like, okay, why do you want me to do it? And at the time I was involved in the Civitans. I had my helping coach in the Parks and Rec with my best friend's son, helping coach him. And of course, involved in the church. So as a year involved, a lot of people know you're an engineer. There's some things we need some help with there. I kind of said, okay, I'll think about it. And then 2 weeks later, back at church, he cornered me again and said, "Hey, the filing deadline is coming up. What have you decided?" And I said, "Well, I hadn't really thought about it. What do I need to do?" And he said, "You go down at a time. You can go to the town hall, pay $10 and sign up." And he said, "You go do that Monday." And so I did. And I wound up being the top vote getter, not knowing really what all I was getting into. But in 1999, I was elected, 4-year term. got a divorce, had kids to take care of. The girls were young. They didn't want daddy away from home. So stepped down. 4 years later, they didn't care. They were teenagers and didn't care what daddy did. So I ran again and got back on, and there was a little snafu in the election, but 2008, I got back on and served until 2018.
2018. Well, you were one of the very first people I met in Clayton when I came up here in 2000. I was looking for a place to put a law practice. I thought I wanted to be in Clayton because it was fast growing, and I was doing my research. So I got me a subscription to the Clayton News Star, and I started reading it in an apartment in Anger, trying to decide where I wanted to go, because I wanted to go to a county and into a town that was being run properly. And it looked like Johnston County and the town of Clayton were being run properly from what I could read from budgeting and stuff, because at that time, Garner had run out of sewer and was having all kinds of problems, which I think helped spark some of Clayton's growth and Western Johnston County's growth as well, where we had some capacity. They didn't. I mean, I think Garner's gotten that sort of fixed now 24 years later, but they kind of had themselves in a mess. But it looked like at least the Clayton Town Council and the Johnston County Commissioners at the time had a plan, and that was one of the reasons I came to Johnston County.
Yeah, so we had in 1997 and a little bit before, Clayton was not in such good financial shape, and Steve Biggs came in as the town manager.
That's right.
And so by the time I got there, he had things heading in a really good direction as far as finances go. And so then, we were kind of early on in the growth. And so we grew and developed as the town grew. And it was, I mean, there are things I look back now and it's like, I wish I'd done that a little different. Wish we'd have kept, and it was a different process for people. There was a special use process then, which, was quasi-judicial, like we were like judges in the legal system. And there were certain rules and there wasn't a lot of negotiation. Now it's conditional zoning, a lot more room for negotiation. So we were handicapped a little bit with what we had to do. They either met the requirements or they didn't. There had to be some opposition that presented information that was considered real testimony. So there were things that I think we did. I don't look back and think I made a bad decision. Sometimes I think the rules were set up. And there are a couple of projects I probably wish we would have tweaked a little bit more.
Well, I mean, it's always easy to do. Hindsight's always 20/20. But I mean, you were there, basically 14 years between the two terms. What are you most proud of that you did when you were on the Clayton Town Council?
So the biggest thing for me was the downtown development. And it was, I can't give the town council full credit because it took people invested money. And so we tried to, as I described it there, set the table. We wanted to have the things in place, ordinances and programs where it was attractive so that somebody would come in and invest. So I think that was probably the number one thing. The parks, really, Larry Bailey was the Parks and Rec director there for years. I learned so much from him, but the parks and the greenways piece was really something that I didn't understand. I appreciated, but I really got a better understand how people coming in are looking for those amenities and how that makes a difference when people are looking at places to go, and there's one place that provides the facilities and the amenities like that. And they say, hey, I want to go there. I want to be able to walk, go on a walking trail. Right. Take my kids to the park.
Yeah. And Larry Bailey ended up being just tremendous for the town of Clayton. And he was, people end up in the right place at the right time. And he was the right person at the right time because he had the vision. He knew where Clayton was going, and he was able to sell the council on running bonds, and the voters voted for those bonds. And now I would say Clayton has some of the nicest parks around.
Oh, I would agree with that.
I mean, really. And Larry Bailey, NC State guy, I think, too.
I
don't want you to forget that.
He definitely is NC State guy. He definitely is an NC State guy.
So anyway, well, that's cool. That's cool.
Have family law questions? Need guidance to navigate legal challenges? The compassionate team at Breeden Law Office is here to help. Visit us at www.breedenfirm.com for practical advice, resources, or to book a consultation. Remember, when life gets messy, you don't have to face it alone.
So why did you decide to run for county commissioner in 2018? You ran against a sitting commissioner, Alan Mims, who had been there for 20 years, I think, and he was running for re-election. You said, I don't care. Because I asked him, I said, why are you running against Alan Mims? You're like, I'm running.
Yeah, so it was, I guess, a very interesting set of circumstances that brought me to that decision. There were some things between the county and the town that upset me a little bit. There were some other things with the water and sewer that upset me a little bit. And that one council meeting I went around, basically went to the mayor pro tem and the senior member of the board and said, are y'all going to run for county commissioner? And they was like, no. And I said, well, I'm running for county commissioner this year. So it was probably not the preferred protocol to reach out to the Republican Party and ask them, talk to them about it. I just, you know what? I'm going to run. It's kind of, it's the time is, this time is now.
Right. Well, I mean, it worked out. You won that race by a lot, if I remember correctly. So when you ran, I mean, what were you trying to do? I know you were a little mad. I mean, the town council and the county commissioners had been battling. That's long history. We don't need to rebuild that. But other than maybe to make the towns in this county get along a little better, what were you trying to do?
So I think the biggest thing was to get that, kind of to work together. I felt my background in engineering helped, my experience helped, and I knew a lot of the folks who were elected officials in the town. But the biggest thing to me was we had the infrastructure needs. I thought I could help with that, help with the planning on that. Again, the transportation piece, I had a pretty good handle on that. And really my experience at ST Wooten and the town at the time had prepared me, because I had been to many local governments across Central and been through their processes and been through a lot of different variations. And so I think that helped me understand, some other things that were out there and wanting to change. And there was a lot of things that hadn't been changed. I mean, 2011, 2014, the last time plans were developed. So I wanted to come in again, not to say somebody's doing something bad. Just like when I ran I wanted to say, I think I can add this to what the county commissioners have. So.
All right. Well, I mean, you've definitely done that. So you were elected in 2018 and is now the summer of 2024. So you're about 6 years into this. Yeah. And has it been what you hoped it would be?
So it has, and it's really different. I mean, you think, well, one thing is very similar, but the things you deal with in the town, you got streets. In the town of Clayton, you had the electrical department to deal with. And really, you were a little bit closer to the people, because in Clayton, when I was on there, you go out, somebody sees you, they will talk to you. I could slip to Four Oaks or Benson and not be recognized. But so I felt like I came with a lot of experience. I wasn't sure how I compared to the other commissioners, because it's a different role and different things you handle. As I got on there, I realized, okay, when I got on in Clayton, to be honest, it was 2 years before I knew when to say aye to something or nay. I was like, okay, do I say something now? What is the process? So I felt like when I got on commissioner, that was out of the way. And so I understood things better, and I felt like I stepped right in and really hit the ground running. But I did want to make some changes and update some plans. And I didn't really realize I'd never been mayor pro tem in Clayton, and I didn't really seek out being the chair. And at the time, the late Tony Braswell came to me and said, "What do you think about being chair? There was going to be a change." And I said, "Well, I don't care. I'm good sitting on the side." And he said, "No, how are you going to feel when you are the chair?" And so I was really nervous, because sitting in front and leading the meetings, it's a whole lot different than sitting on the side.
Right.
And just listening. So, I mean, Rick Hester's been a great help in learning that, and Ted Godwin, former chairs on there, and Tony, when he was there, they were really, Jeff Carver reaching out to him. So I learned a little something from everybody, and they all were good resources when I would call and say, "Hey, what about this?" And again, Rick has been around for 25 years now as county manager. So not many better resources than Rick.
So when did you become chairman?
That's a good question. So this is 24 to 22.
22.
Yeah.
Okay.
22.
I know y'all elect a chairman every year.
Right.
You're elected, half the board's elected one even year, and the other half the board's elected the other even year. But the chairman is revoted on every single year.
Right.
Why is that?
I think that is just the process that Johnston County has. And I think that may be for every county. I'm not sure. But we had traditionally, what it has been is you get a 2-year window. And so you usually get 2. And I was finishing up Chad Stewart's. That was when I first got on there. So maybe it's 3. This is my 3rd year on there. So I got on then and then got appointed and do it. So I really do enjoy it, because it requires a lot of work. And that's the one thing I don't people understand. And one of the reasons that when I got on, we were 1 meeting a month, and in Clayton we had 2. And so I was like, "Hey, Rick, we got a lot of work. Why don't we meet twice a month?" And so we moved to that, and we can really get things going. But that was, kind of one of the things I had wanted to do. Let's meet more often, because when you meet once a month, people are like, well, they don't do anything.
Right.
Yeah, they come and show up one Monday a month, and they don't do anything in between. And there's a lot of work.
Well, are y'all still meeting in the morning and at night?
So we do on the first Monday of the month, we meet at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then we meet at 6 o'clock at night. And then on the third Monday, we just meet at 6 o'clock at night. And the night meetings are typically land use planning, that kind of thing.
Okay. And they're all streamed live on YouTube.
Yes.
The county's YouTube page. I know y'all been really good about that. And I watch a fair number of them, and, I find them entertaining. And well, I don't know how entertaining, but I'm
Some
usually
parts are more
right.
entertaining than
I'm
others.
interested in what y'all are trying to do. And, the agendas are online in advance if you want to see what they're going to do or what they're going to talk about, if you want to follow something specifically among the 7 commissioners there. And I guess it's 5.5 years. I think of 6, but we're not through 2024. What would you say are you most proud of?
So this may say, you just kind of mentioned one that I'm very proud of, is coming from a background in Clayton with a public information officer, and the county didn't have, that was one of the things that I thought, we need to do a better job of communicating what we're doing to the citizens of Johnston County. And part of that was live streaming. And in Clayton, I was out there, I don't think we want to live stream. But then once I got to the county level, it's like, we need a way to share it. And of course, COVID hit, and we kind of were forced into it because we were planning some upgrades to the boardroom. Then COVID hit, we were out, and then we didn't have any choice but to live stream. So I think that the PIO, getting the information, we're running a series now on our, the 6 priorities that we have and how the budget reflects those 6 priorities. So we're in the middle of a series on that. But I think we're doing a better job, and with Adam Carroll and Ben Yarber are our guys there, and we're still growing in that area. But we're making a presentation. Patrick Harris and I are in a couple of weeks for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, and so Adam has worked with our emergency services team to develop a presentation. Whereas before that would have been on Rick, the county manager,
right,
and Patrick and I to do it, but those guys are on top of it. And like I said, with Jordan Piper and the emergency services folks, that put something together that's really nice.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Well, the last topic we'll talk about on this episode, and once again, there's going to be another one coming out in about 3 or 4 weeks, so check back, is you've been on the Board of Trustees of Johnston Community College basically since you've been on the Board of Commissioners. You and I were on the Board of Trustees together in 2018 and 2019 of Johnston Community College. Tell the listeners about that experience and kind of what the college does and what it's trying to do.
Well, I will say I had very little knowledge of what the community college, I knew what they did, but the level that they operated in, the diversity of things that they offered, I will say, and as you know, that is a hardworking board. It's not a board you show up once a month for a meeting and then you go back and then you come another month. There's a lot of work goes into that. And I think the thing that we're seeing now is the move back towards, and I'll say vocational training because I'm old, but things that people they don't have to get a 4-year degree. They can get a 2-year degree or certificate and make really good money. You've got Novo and Griffles and the Bioworks program. We got advanced manufacturing facility they're building. The healthcare and the health sciences, the piece is growing. Our enrollment, I think, is up 17% so far this year. And I think that was after a 13% increase last year. And I will say, we talk about one of the accomplishments I forgot to mention was we instituted the Commissioner's Promise for students from Johnston County high schools to go tuition free to JCC. And that there's about 450 students who've taken advantage of that. Some who were not going anywhere that have decided to enroll or going somewhere else and decided to stay at JCC. So that's a big deal.
No, that is a big deal. And, the one thing is that Johnston Community College is open to everybody. If you can't read, it's open to you. If you don't have a high school diploma, it's open to you. If you have a high school diploma and you want a short-term training, it's open to you. If you have a 4-year degree, but you want more training, it's open to you. It is there for anybody, and it is very cost effective. Like I said, if you're coming out of high school, it's basically free. There's Pell Grants. They've got tons of scholarships in the Johnston Community College Foundation. So if you're out there listening to this, or you know anybody who needs to be retrained, and what was my biggest surprise was how many students were coming back to JCC that had 4-year degrees to get specialized training to become, whether it be phlebotomists or ultrasound technicians, or they were coming back to become nurses or welders, and because they knew they could make more money and they would be better off with the degrees at JCC than the degree they already had. It was stunning to me. I mean, it was a lot. And I think that's great. And I think as we move forward, I personally think a 4-year degree will not be as valuable in the capitalistic society as it is now. I think it's going to be about skill sets and AI and what you can do for businesses and what you can provide moving forward.
I agree with that. And I think when you're on the board, I came on the board, you saw that shift from focus on for you being a starting point for a 4-year degree is now making that shift. There's still the people there for the transfer program, but there are a lot of people there who are now to get that certificate or associate's degree training to do something, I would say, in the vocational side of things.
No doubt. Well, the last question we ask everybody on every episode is, what do you love best about Johnston County?
The hours of the people. I'm a people person, so I mean, I'm like you. That's when I'm going to talk to somebody. You got 2 ears, I'm going to talk to you. So, but the people are by far, and the thing I do like is if you come to Johnston County and you want to be involved, I feel like there's an opportunity. If you are happy not being involved, that's okay too. But if you really want to become involved in Johnston County, there are plenty of organizations, civic, church, be an elected official that you can get involved in. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's not a place you can come and you find it difficult to fit in. It's a good place to come.
I agree 100%. It is the people, and that's what everybody says on the Best of Johnston County podcast, and that's what I honestly believe too. We would like to thank Butch Lawter for being our guest on this episode of the Best of Johnston County podcast. As we mentioned earlier, if this is your first time listening, feel free to like, follow, or subscribe to this podcast wherever you're seeing it, so you'll be aware of future episodes of the Best of Johnston County podcast. And listen back in just a few weeks for the next episode with Butch Lawter, where he's going to talk about the Johnston County Public Schools, the Sheriff's Department, land use, zoning, and a little bit about some of the bonds that are coming up this fall. Until next time, I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden.
That's the end of today's episode of Best of Johnston County, a show brought to you by the trusted team at Breeden Law Office. We thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing more interesting facets of this community next week. Every story, every viewpoint adds another thread to the rich tapestry of Johnston County. If the legal aspects highlighted raise some questions, help is just around the corner at www.breedenfirm.com.